Welcome in, builders. This week we're taking a look at Atlantis, Frozen Sea. This is definitely going to be a fan favorite and possibly one of the stronger nations in late age. Let's check out and see what they got going on. With the second fall of Atlantis and the demise of the Coral Queens at the hand of Relay, the Atlanteans were forced to retreat from the seas. A few surviving kings of the deep entered into a pact with a sleeping god at the forsaken coast of ice and bones. The Atlantean and Akut shaman kings led the bone cult and practiced death magic previously unheard of in Atlantean history. The Angakut have coerced captured Kalian ice crafters to yield the secrets of their skills, and now most Atlanteans use arms of enchanted ice. Even their great city is built on interlinked ice flows. So, bit of a short national description here. A lot has gone on with poor Atlantis. We have been driven from our sea homes by those dastardly Relayans. Let's see what's going on with our national features. As a race, we are amphibious. We have ocean sailing. We can trace income across oceans. That means if we own something across the ocean, we can get the money from that without needing to have a local fort that is connected contiguously with the rest of our territory. We prefer gold scales of +2. For military, we have pole arms, we use magical ice armaments, and we have no missile weapons other than harpoons. That is unfortunately not the best in late age, where it is pretty popular to have crossbows, but it's not something that we can't necessarily overcome. For magic, we are very strong in water and death, and we have a sprinkle of air, earth, astral, and fire. Our priests are medium. We have priest level 2s that we can recruit. For scales and blesses, we get a cold limit of +1 and a death limit of +1. For buildings, we build ice forts in coastal provinces. Ice forts are pretty nice in the fact that they upgrade relatively cheaply. Some of their stages are like 450 or 600, so nice there. And the colder it is, the better they are, including their administration. So you can actually make a tidy little bank if you can get a lot of coastal forts that stay very, very cold. You can have a surprisingly good economy, which is good because we definitely can spend that money. For sites, we only have one site. We have the Coast of Ice and Bones. This allows us to get our Cap Only Sacred and Cap Only Mage, and produces 3 water gems and a death gem. So nothing too amazing here. It should be noted that that's a lot of water gems, so should be thinking about maybe water elemental spam or bishop fish or troll king court. Looking to spend some pretty hefty water gems at some point. Units and sacreds. We have a pretty decent lineup here. As mentioned above, we don't really have a lot of ranged things. We just got out from the sea, and undersea historically has not had a lot of ranged things. Starting us off, we have the Seal Hunter. This is our only quote-unquote range guy. 10 gold, 5 resources, 9 recruitment points, makes them pretty darn cheap. You can see the base chassis that we have here. Amphibian, cold resist 5, snow move. Thank you for being a cold nation that actually has snow move. It's annoying when they don't. And we have dark vision of 50. We're equipped, sadly, with a stone spear and a harpoon. The stone spear is definitely outclassed in the late age. 13 damage isn't going to cut it. But the harpoon is at least vaguely interesting in the fact that not only are we strength 11, but the harpoon's a little bit better than just a javelin. So 14 piercing damage, and they have the harpooning effect, which is a net effect. So vaguely interesting there. Having at least a few of these guys behind the main line, maybe you can get a lucky net on some guys, make them a little easier to stab. We're not a nation that really struggles with that, but nets are always kind of nice, and they can really screw some units that depend on having a high defense. Armor-wise, we have a full leather armor and a leather hood. Generally speaking, not super duper impressive unless you're interested in that net effect. Next up, we have 2 varieties of snow warriors. Starting us off here, we have the Ice Spear variety, armored with an ice cuirass and an ice cap. This guy clocks in at 10 gold, 22 resources, 9 recruitment points, so about half recruitment of resources. In addition to our base stats, we now have Ice Armor 1. Ice armor means we get better protection in colder provinces, but worse in heat. It is +1 per level. So If we were in cold 3, we would get an additional 3 protection on each of these pieces, making this quite a budget-heavy troop, actually, if you can keep it cold enough. Going up to the second variety, it is the same guy, but now he has an ice glaive. I should call, just in case it wasn't obvious, the ice weaponry are all magic weapons. So that is a huge, huge benefit in an age where Lemuria exists, and you will be quite sad if you don't have magic weapons and they are in your game. Moving on to this warrior here, he has the ice glaive. This is a good weapon. Glaives are nice, and he at least has an attack 10. A lot of times with these big two-hand weapons, you end up with these guys that have like 8 or 9 attack, which really draws them back. This guy, though, with his 10 attack, slashing pierce damage at 22 magic damage, length 3 weapons, nice. You have a lot of people using shorter weapons in late age, so you can get some repels. Not the heaviest troop at 15 protection generically, but remember, if you're in the cold, that's going to be a bit higher. Totally usable troop. 10 gold, 26 resources, 9 recruitment points. Resources are going to be heavy across the board here, but otherwise not really going to break the bank. A nice little troop. Next up, we have Ice Warrior. This variety here has an Ice Aegis as a shield and is wielding an Ice Spear, so a length 3 weapon. He is very skilled with it at 12 attack. If I have to have a spear in late age, I want a magic spear that has 12 attack. So he gets some kudos there. Armor-wise, he also was wearing a ice hauberk and an ice cap. These are vaguely like a lot of the magic armor we would make with water magic. So quite well armored. He has ice armor 2. Now this is important. You get +2 in cold and scales, but you also get -2 in the heat. So let's say it's the height of summer at heat 2, and you're out marching around in that. This 18 protection is now 14. Much less impressive. So be aware when and where you're using these troops, especially the ones with the high ice armor stat here. Overall, one of the best spearmen in late age. Shrug, I guess. Good attack, good strength. The chassis itself has some HP behind it, has some okay defense, do that nice Ice Aegis shield. That's a good shield too. He's okay. He's okay. Next up, we have Ice Guard. Same guy, but now he's trading the spear for an Ice Blade. This is 17 magic slashing damage with 13 skill. So compared to this, we went up 1 in attack and we went up 3 in damage. So if you're not too worried about those repels, much better weapon here. 13 attack is significant. This is like an elite troop essentially. And 17 magic damage is fine. 16 is kind of my goal for generic line fighters. He has full armor, including a nice shield. And again, remember, we got that nice ice armor. It's not uncommon to see something like this at 22 or 24 protection. Quite good if you can stay in that cold. Finally, we have my favorite Ice Guard. It is the same guy, but he has traded out his one-handed weapon and shield for a two-handed Ice Glaive. Down to 12 attack. I say down to, but 12 is still excellent. We have slashing and piercing damage, 24 magic damage on a length 3 weapon. These are really nice. 24 is plenty to hack away at even some of the heaviest cavalry of the age. You will trade pretty well and not really breaking the bank. 32 resources, 21 recruitment points, 16 gold. Not terrible. 15 HP. So a human and a half worth of HP. You could probably take 1 crossbow bolt and be okay, even at our base protection. And if you can stay in the cold, that's going to go up again to like 22, 24, depending on how cold it is. Quite well protected. You want heavy protection on the big two-handed weapon troops, in my opinion, so they can take at least 1 hit and at least get 1 swing off before they die, so you can at least trade pretty well. Overall, I like him. The high attack will help him get some parries that you may not expect. His encumbrance is only 5. That's not too bad. A great troop here. I quite like it. I should also note, all the ice armor is also magic. That usually doesn't come up very often, but it makes the armor have better saves against things that try to destroy it. Very niche, but yeah, I mean, it's a bonus nonetheless. Next up, we have the Mournful. This is a equipped shambler. He is used when you need to go out into the heat and or you have more recruitment than you have resources. So he is a size 4, but he has pretty good stats. 25 gold, 13 resources, 30 recruitment points. That's fine. 20 HP, 14 strength. That also makes him good at sieging. He has 2.0 siege strength. Okay attack, okay defense. He's wielding a halberd, but he's not particularly great at it with only 9 attack. He's geared up in bone gear, bone helmet, bone cuirass, and a turtle shell. So not particularly good there, but if you have to go into the heat in the early game, these can be okay, especially if you need to whack something really, really hard. 27 damage will get some jobs done. He is still an amphibian. He still has the dark vision. 16 protection, which is really 15 on the body, is actually still okay. Do note, morale is only 9. The guys we've been looking at before, 13, 12, 10, 10, and even the little weak dudes, 10. So these guys are a little bit on the skittish side, but we have okay leaders, even to good leaders. So that'll probably be just fine. Do note another little trick you can do here. If you queue one of these and then 2 size 3 troops, when you recruit them, those guys will share the squares just like that. So you'll end up with a full size 10 in each square. So a little bit of micromanagement, but if you want to do that, that is one way you can eke just a little bit more efficiency out of these guys. Next, we have the Arsartut, which is our cap-only sacred. The Arsartut is kind of a mediocre sacred in my opinion. He's only wearing that bone gear, which isn't the best protection. We look here, 12 on the body. No shield because he's got a bone glaive. Now, he does have 13 attack, and it is 25 magic damage on a glaive. Plus, that's fine, that's good. And it's a magic glaive that deals weakness to people that he's hitting it. And that's on damage, not on hit. It's armor negating, but it is magic resistance negates. And it gives them weakness, so it's going to drain away their strength. That's all right. That kind of makes you good for just swarming a thug or a combat god or something and just whittling away at that. Kind of just makes it annoying. Nobody wants to have, even if it doesn't really matter, nobody wants their god to lose some strength or something. So just a nice deterrent. I think these guys are in just the sweet spot of being crappy enough that you're never really going to hell bless them or anything, but good enough to be a counter unit. So if you're in a game and Abyssi is in that game, you're going to give this guy some fire resistance. If you're in a game and somebody's going to run foul vapors, you're going to give this guy poison resistance. He's a good chassis to just be that counter to whatever it is that you're really worried about. And you're not going to feel too bad about, oh man, I just took poison resistance and fire resistance. He'll still function. He'll be okay at what you want him to do. 23 gold, 10 resources, 25 recruitment points also makes him pretty light on resources, which otherwise our capital might be straining a little bit under the other things we would like to recruit. So overall, I'm not like head over heels on the Arsartut, but he's fine. I like him well enough. Next up, we have some underwater recruit onlys. First up, we have the Atlantean Light Infantry, Coral Cuirass, and a Coral Spear. I'll say it at least still has a poison on it, but 13 piercing damage in late age ain't it. And poison barbs 5. Unless you're fighting shamblers, that's not going to do overly much, unfortunately. 10 gold, 9 resources, 9 recruitment points makes them very cheap. They still have that 11 strength, so they're better than humans at sieging, and they at least do have 10 morale, so they're not like super skittish or anything. Second, we have Atlantean Shield Bearer. This is the similar, he's traded his Coral Cuirass for just a shield, making him go down to 3 resources. I don't like these guys, but if you're just stuffing a fort or sieging a fort, this is even cheaper on resources, so you could pump even more of them, and they still maintain that 10 morale, so vague use, I suppose. Next up, we have Atlantean Infantry. This guy has combined the best of both worlds and put on a hat. So we have a Coral Cuirass, a Coral Cap, and a Turtle Shield, still wielding the same weapon. As previously mentioned, I'm not in love with Coral Spears. Early age, pretty good. Late age, not feeling that. But in an emergency, he could still do something at least. Finally, we have the Unsleeping. This is a heavily armored, I believe he's an actual Atlantean. He's not a shambler, he's an actual Atlantean. And he's interesting. So, Amphibian Dark Vision, has the poison barbs from the coral armor. He has Void Sanity. This is only used to cancel Relay's Madness Dominion. But if you need it, you need it. He also has Undreaming. Undreaming means you get extra magic resistance against sleep effects, which also has a double chance of waking up if they do fall asleep. So vaguely useful there. One thing about that could be interesting as bodyguards. Sometimes your bodyguards are asleep. I assume this would apply. So you would have a double chance to wake up if you're asleep during an assassination attempt. Very niche, but it's Dominions. Everything's niche. Otherwise, it's a size 4, good HP, good strength, okay attack, 35 gold, 23 resources, 47 recruitment points. Makes him a bit of an elite troop that is not particularly elitely armored, but he still has 16 body protection. That's fine. He does have a shield, and turtle shields are still okay. Encumbrance is a smidgen on the high side. And do remember, if you use slashing weapons underwater, you take a bit of a penalty. So you have a 50% chance of taking a penalty on attacks. But he's fine. I like him well enough. These are similar to what you get when you get shipwreckers. It's not this chassis, but similar. So that could be a thing. Overall, pretty usable and probably the best of the underwater ones if you have the resources and recruitment points to get them. This is quite a premium, I would say. Overall, I like their lineup quite a bit. The only sketchy thing is be careful with these ice protection troops if you're marching out into the heat, especially if it's high heat. You're going to have to look to your non-ice armor units to try to get something done. And they're definitely like your second tier. Like, you really like these ice troops, and you're less excited to be getting the non-ice troops. But they're still fine. There's no like big stinkers here. Maybe these guys are less useful, but we start on a coast, we don't start underwater, so this isn't really a problem. Overall, big thumbs up, I would say, for their unit roster. Heroes, Commanders, and Prophet. For heroes, we have 2, and both of which are decent to good. First up, we have Kivig Tok. He's pretty interesting. He's riding one of our assassin undead things, and he himself is equipped in the bone gear with a bone glaive. Comes in with Water 1, Death 2, Priest level 1, and he is sacred. Otherwise, standard traits. That's nothing really to write home about. He's 150 leadership and does have good undead leadership. Has okay HP. Totally fine. I used him as a leader for an army in some of my test games where I got him. He has a mount. Note, it is not a sacred mount, but it does have fear. So you could try to turn this into a thug chassis. I think if you threw some decently heavy barding on this, now you have a fear chassis on this guy. He could give himself Breath of Winter, Quickness, Liquid Body, Skeletal Body. We could gem up into Soul Vortex. Soul Vortex would be fine. Yeah, Soul Vortex would be fine. Could be pretty interesting, but it's just a hero. So fun, but not nation defining here for sure. We also have the Once and Future Queen. This is the last of the Atlantean queens. She comes in at Priest level 4. She has Fear, Fire Resist, Cold Resist, Dark Vision 100, Void Sanity 20, and Undreaming 12. Perfectly fine. You're happy to get her. Maybe give her a piece of armor if you're going to go out and about. She is size 7, so fire large enemy monsters will target her pretty effectively, and she would not enjoy getting crossbowed. She has a very high natural protection, which would stack in really nicely with like some heavy armor here to keep her nice and safe. Overall, very nice. It's a priest level 4, meaning you could prophetize her and go up to priest level 5. Priest level 5 gives you a spell where we can up our priest level 1s to 2s, relevant if we're having to do lots of banishing. And we have a pretty spammable priest mage that does have priest level 1, so that could be something that could be useful. Going up to the regular commander line, starting we have the tent owner, the big chiller of late age Atlantis, just got his tent and content. This is our scout. He only is 40 stealthy, but he's a essentially normal scout. 35 gold, 5 resources, 1 recruitment point, and he comes with amphibian, cold resist, snow remove, and dark vision. Does have that harpoon and standard leather gear here, stone spear. Totally fine, totally usable. I guess if nothing else, if he gets caught and has to fight, maybe he can net somebody and then kill him with the spear. could be something useful. I think he also has one more strength than the troop version, so a little bit better with the Stone Spear otherwise. Next up, we have the Snow Captain. 100 leadership is good. 95 gold, 26 resources, 1 recruitment point. Standard traits that we've been seeing is wearing the ice gear and has the ice 1 ice armor. Totally usable. He works just fine. Do note no shield. That could be something you might think about if you're fighting a lot of crossbows. Ice Captain is up next. He's a little more pricey at 150, 32, and 2 recruitment points, but he takes his leadership up to 150, which is a +2. We don't have bad leadership, but getting a +2 is better than getting a +1. And he has the higher ice armor. So if you are in the cold, he will give you a very solid, let's say you're in cold 2, 22 defense on the body. So even a crossbow is only going to take that down to about 10-ish when he gets shot. So pretty notable there. Again, no shield though. Next up, we have the Tungalik. The Tungalik is a Water 1, Death 1, Priest 1. That's a little unfortunate. Those are not the best paths. Otherwise, this is probably our researcher. He has 9 research at 60 gold per year, so nice and efficient, even if you don't take magic scales. Armed with a quarterstaff, and as a mage, he at least does have some armor. He has a leather hood and a full leather armor. That's quite nice. I would say here, really, Water 1, Death 1 is not the greatest. You're looking at like Frighten, Decay. I think their big breakout spell was Frozen Heart, but Frozen Heart is way up in alteration. Was it 6, I think? 6, 7, somewhere in there. So it's going to be a long time before these really come into their own as a combat mage, but not too expensive for a pretty efficient mage. They're only 2 recruitment points, hardly any resources, good magic resist. They actually have okay leadership. Maybe they could ferry around some reinforcements. I will say Death 1 allows them to skeletal body, which gives them resistance against piercing. Maybe you survive 1 crossbow shot. That can be kind of valuable, I would say. Otherwise, not overly much to say about him. Next up, we have our cap-only mage, the Ingakok. This is a very strong mage. Comes in with Water 3, Death 2, Priest level 2, and 110% of air, water, earth, and death. And there's a lot of important spells that need those individual randoms. So you're going to want to get your capital onto these ASAP. We do have a citadel, so you get 3 commander points. So you can get 3/4 of these per turn. That's not terrible, but they are expensive. 595 is not cheap. I do feel that is warranted here. This is an okay price for what you're getting, but it's still a big price. Yeah. They do have good morale. They do have good match resistance. They actually have armor again, ending up with 17 on the body and 15 on the head. That's really nice. The earth ones could actually do some interesting thugging. Combine a steel skin, a temper flesh, and you could get like soul vortex, etc., etc. All the normal thuggy stuff could be interesting, but it's a slow to recruit chassis, so not certain on that one. Other things they bring to the table. This is our sailing guy, so he can sail with up to size 6 units. He has 100 leadership, 30 magic, and 100 undead leadership. Pretty nice there. Does have 50% dark vision and gets water breathing 120. That could be useful to get yourself underwater, which we quite would like to do. So a very nice mage here, I would say. Notable again, water 4 is possible, death 3 is possible, death air cross path is possible. Lots of things going on there. Next up, we go to our underwater fort recruitment. Starting us off, we have the Shambler Chief. It's the Shambler's Chief. He is what he is. I kind of am interested in finding like a really cheap piece of armor to give these guys and make them like a super budget army thug, like a frost brand, some kind of armor, some kind of helmet, some kind of shield. So you're looking at probably like 15, 20 gems, but maybe you could do something with it. Otherwise, I'm not in love with this guy. Next, we have the Merciful Mother. This is a priest level 2, and she's just a priest. So you're not going to be wasting your priest level 2s on your cap onlys if you need that effect. and doesn't really break the bank at 135 gold. Totally fine, usable. I will note not wearing armor, particularly just a coral cap. Next up, we have the Unsleeping Consort. This is our best underwater leader. He has 100 leadership. He is a priest 1 and is sacred. Has the other underwater traits of Void Sanity and Undreaming. At 160 gold, 23 resources. Totally fine and usable, I would say. Finally, we have the Forgiving Father. Quite a nice mage, and I would say our main battle mage. We have a good cap only, but he's slow to recruit. And our other guy is a good researcher, but until you get Frozen Heart, I'm not really in love with his offensive capabilities. This guy, however, has Water 2, Astral 1, and a 100% chance to get one of Fire, Water, Earth, or Astral. So you can get an Astral 2. Lots of things to do there. You can get the Fire, which opens up some the acid spells. You could get the Earth, which opens up some of the rust spells. So quite a lot you could do here. And they're all guaranteed to be able to communion up, which could be pretty nice. Astral Forging also opens up a lot of interesting things. Water does have kind of a branch. If you're either going kind of cold damage or slowing stuff, or you're going into like fatigue stuff and magic save stuff. So having the ability to forge up some penetration items out of Astral is really nice. In addition, if you did empower one of these guys to Fire 2, you can make Rune Smashers, one of the best penetration items in the game. At 260, a little pricey for what you're getting, but not horrifically so. Again, I like these guys. 50 water breathing, again, could be useful for something. I don't know what, but it's a thing. Do note, again, not wearing any armor or anything. If you got these guys, I think you're probably looking at doing some communions and then using them probably to Falling Frost spam, but there's some other offensive things we could do. Overall, I like these guys quite a bit. I will say that their efficiency is not good for research. 208 gold for only 13. You're much better off with the little dudes. So this is definitely a combat mage and probably your most common one. You're going to want lots and lots and lots of these guys. Of note, remember, most of our troops have some cold resistance. So even if you're throwing cold spells and we friendly fire, it's not going to be that bad. We have both cold resistance and good protection, which kind of saves you from cold spells. One of the problems with cold is that fact. Who would I make my prophet? I think the ideal prophet is probably either an Unsleeping Consort or more likely an Ice Captain. Just somebody with nice thick armor that can lead some troops around if you want to and isn't going to die instantly from a single bolt. I don't like it on your big mage. Again, he has other things to do than sit around and cast Word of Power, but it's fine. You can use it on any of those. Also, remember we have that priest level 4 hero that would be kind of interesting to make a holy 5 since that is such a rare thing in the game. Could be kind of fun to do. As for national items, we have no national items. As for national spells, we only have 2, but one's okay and one's whatever. In enchantment, at enchant 5, we get Sin Tupalak. This is a 3 death water 1 spell, so our cap mages can cast this if they roll into death 3 or have a staff. Costs 5 death gems, and it's going to send an anonymous, no one's going to know it was you, guy, with your unique national spell. Sends an assassination attempt with this weird undead bear thing. We'll take a look at him here in a second, but an interesting chassis, if nothing else. We also have Monsterfish at Conjuration 6. Monsterfish is fine. He's usable underwater. Let's look at those right now so I don't forget. So if we go into our nation and our summons, Monsterfish, interesting thing for him is he is size 10. He really would like both quickness and body ethereal, 2 things that we can actually do for him. He's amphibious only, he has fear, and he is undisciplined. His claim to fame is he has Swallow, which deals 20 damage or special. The special is he just swallows you, and if he swallows AoE 1, which is kind of cool. But it's kind of whatever, especially if you can't buff him. Buffed, like 5 of these dudes eating 10 squares of infantry per turn and having fear, kind of cool. And they're not tramplers, but they're size 10. so they can push through your line, which makes them a lot safer. You don't have to have them in front to get killed before the lines clash. So let your lines clash and then have these guys swim through and start eating people. Kind of neat, especially if you can get those buffs off to give them body ethereal and quickness. And we have lots and lots of water income, so we could definitely afford that. The Tupalak, this is an assassination attempt. If he survives it and wins, I do believe you get to keep him on the field, so you can run around and do some shenanigans. Do note, he's not actually an assassin, so after the ritual goes off, he can't assassinate anything. But if somehow you manage to keep him alive after that, it does have a bite, does have a claw, has fear 5, cold resist, poison resist, he's undead, he's inanimate, is mindless, so he's immune to a lot of things here. He's flying, snow move, and spirit sight. Note, I didn't say undisciplined, so if you can keep these guys alive somehow, hold, attack, rear allows you to buff them up. Again, body ethereal and quickness would be quite liked by these guys. Having a few of these in the back row of a fight would be kind of nice. That's it for our national spells, but I do want to call out a couple other things that are spells that you don't normally see too much, but we would be rather good with. In Conjuration, of course, you're going to want Summon Water Power. You're also going to be doing Water Elementals of various sizes. I think you also are looking at Voice of Tiamat. Voice of Tiamat would let you find hopefully some air gems and some fire gems and some earth gems, all things that we can get a tiny bit of, but we're not good at searching and we don't get natively. In addition to those, Winter Wolves are pretty nasty. That's a nice little summon. It's been a hot minute since we used these, but they're really good actually. And we can get water 4s or 5s-ish. So you can actually make this a relatively efficient summoning of them. And they're really good. They're ethereal, and I believe they have cold power and a cold aura. Quite nice little creature, actually. Beyond those ones, sea trolls could be interesting, but I think you want their big brother. Ideally, you would want Seeking Court, which gets you some armored trolls, a good chunk of trolls, a water 3 mage that also is a Gym Jin. Do note, he has like 240 or 250 gold upkeep. We have a pretty good economy, so it's not too nasty for us, but just remember that. 6 also gets us Bishop Fish. Bishop Fish for 15 gems is nothing. Nothing. And that gets us spammable Holy 3s, and we can easily make them Shambler skins to get them on land. So very, very nice. I think that would be very useful. That also is where we get our Monster Fish, if you are so inclined. Also gets you Specters. Specters are another mage. And I don't think that breaks us into anything we don't have, but they can get Astral, Fire, I want to say Water maybe. You can also summon Ghosts here. These are pretty good, and we, again, can get Death 3 or 4 relatively easily, making this a pretty effective, almost down to like, what, 1.2 gems per Ghost? A little bit better than that if you can get your Death up a little bit. Can be pretty nice there. We have lots of undead leadership to move them around. Going over to Alteration, I think the big ones here, beyond just the little like incidental buffing that you can do, are going to be the Death and Water things. So Winter's Chill could be useful. Gift of Formlessness, Fire Resistance, all of those are pretty nice. You could do Invulnerability on your mages if that would be helpful. But I think the big one is both Soul Vortex, if you want to go the Thug path, and Darkness. Most of our troops have Darkness either 50 or a few of them have 100. So we would quite like to fight in the dark. You are probably going to need a Skull Staff, but that's very reachable for us to be able to do Darkness. And it's -6, so can be devastating to units who don't have any dark vision. So you're going to have high protection units that enemies are struggling to hit. Very, very nice for you, and not so nice for the enemies. Beyond that, I would call out way down here. Where are you at? You do Wave Warriors to give everyone Slash, Blunt, Pierce resistance, and Wound Fend. Again, just make your troops absolutely unkillable. We have Ice Walls. This is a way that you can actually make your walls tougher. That might be useful in the right situation. Moving on to Evocation. Evocation is actually really, really good for us. Like, really good for us. It gives us, at low levels, the basic water stuff. The basic acid stuff could be useful. Nothing to write home about too much there. where it starts getting more interesting. At Evo 3, we can random into an air on our cap-only mages, which would let us do Freezing Mist. Freezing Mist is pretty nasty. It's AoE 10 plus, and it leaves a lingering cloud 4. Assuming you're in the cold while you're doing this, you can actually get people frozen, and 4 is strong enough that you can actually start doing damage to frozen enemies with the cloud. One of the reasons that fire clouds are better than cold clouds is that being on fire is a lot worse than being cold and then starting to take damage, unfortunately. We also would get Shadow Bolt, which we can spam quite effectively. Up at 4, we're unlikely to be doing tons of Acid Rain, but if we get our underwater recruit mages and we communion up, we actually could get Acid Rain rolling at AoE 6 plus for 12 magic acid damage that is armor piercing and rusts. Could be pretty dang nasty. We also get Bolt of Unlife, vaguely interesting at times. Moving up to 5, we get Falling Frost finally. This is AoE 10 plus at range 50. -2 precision makes it pretty dang inaccurate, and it has the inaccurate tag. So this spell always deviates even if you have good precision. So even if you give your guys aim, you're still going to get a little bit of deviation, although that will definitely help. At only 20 fatigue is not terrible at all. And it does 10 plus magic cold damage that is armor piercing. So again, if you have cold resistance and you're rocking high armor, this is going to struggle a bit. It does leave clouds, but they're only cloud level 1, so a little bit of fatigue, unless it's like a cold-blooded unit or something. Not the best, but it's okay. It's a good AoE. It's not too bad on the friendly fire, which is nice for those type of spells. We also get Shadow Blast. For 1 Death Gem, you get an AoE 9 plus, and remember, we're going to have Death 3s or maybe even 4s sometimes. It is highly fatiguing, unfortunately, but it's 8 plus, armor negating, magic resist for half damage, and they can magic save for a paralysis. Quite a nasty little spell here. Going even higher, we get up to Cleansing Water. Cleansing Water is disgusting for being able to wipe out large amounts of armored undead. It's armor negating, does 5 plus magic damage, AoE 5 plus, so quite good there. Again, against Lemuria, that would be quite nice. We get Blast of Unlife, could be good. Up to 7, we get Ice Strike. Ice Strike is a pretty nasty spell. 18 magic slashing damage. Note it's not cold finally. It does leave a lingering cold where it hits. We also get Acid Storm. Again, if we were going to commune up, we could do that. I don't think we're too interested in Acid Storm. That's more of like an EA, maybe middle-aged thing. This also opens up Murdering Winter. Murdering Winter is a ranged ritual that kills lots of troops if they don't have cold resistance. We get Stygian Rain. This, I believe, is nation-defining. It's with a little bit of work or a little bit of luck to get that Death 3. For 2 gems, Stygian Rains hits the entire battlefield, costs 2 death gems. It puts up natural rain. Generally speaking, that's going to be snow because we're going to be in the cold. So snow's less useful than rain, unfortunately. But it grants everyone on the battlefield, you and your enemies, invulnerability 15. Why does that matter? Most of our army is going to have magic weapons. Magic weapons ignore invulnerability. So it doesn't matter that I buff the enemy if I can just ignore the buff, and they are unlikely to be able to do so. Magic weapons are pretty rare in late age, and if you don't have a Lemuria in the lobby, they're even rarer. And even if you want magic weapons, it's now in Astral 5 Incarnate Bless, so people are unlikely to be interested in taking that if they don't think they have to. Once you get this on your heavy troops in the cold, you're looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of about 31 protection against mundane attacks. So we have not breaking the bank, line troops with giant pikes, or excuse me, with glaives that can have 31 protection. That is ridiculous. This also will hit your mages. So all your mages have a bit better survivability than they might otherwise have. And it's going to be either raining or snowing. Either way, that helps counter the fire, although rain is better because it adds 50% to the fatigue cost of casting fire spells, but both of them help either way. So turn 1, getting this up and running is beautiful. Also note, most crossbows are not magic, so this will help you against that. 31 halved, so now you're down to about 15 protection, and then you take 10% off of that. You're about down to, let's call it 13-ish protection. That's actually enough to be able to soak crossbow bolts, even more so if you have your shielded troops. So a very, very, I would argue, nation-defining spell here in Stygian Reigns. In addition to that, if that wasn't enough, we also get Cloud of Death and Winds of Death, both of which we can cast natively. It would be a lot of work for both of these, because you're going to need your random to go into air. So you're going to have a Death 2, Air 1. So you're going to have to do some work, but it might be worthwhile. Winds of Death is still incredibly powerful, and we do have astral access, so get him like a Ring of Returning, so as soon as he takes damage, he just blips out and goes back to your capital. Would be really, really nice. If you made a god who could make air boosters, you could make that same guy be able to cloud trapeze in, do a Winds of Death, and then just bloop, back to your capital when as soon as he takes a point of damage. Very, very nasty. Very, very nasty. In addition, at 8, Mealstorm's a bit of a stretch. We're going to have water 4 tops, but we could make the 2 water boosters natively if we want to. Mealstorm gets us 15 water gems, 5 astral, 3 air, and 1 of each other gem type. So quite nice. We have a quite wide, even if it's low in a lot of areas, pathing. This would let us forge all kinds of things and really turbocharge our water income. That would be 18 base before anything else. Could be quite nice to have that up and running. Finally, at 9, again, Water 5, a little hard to do, but it's in reach for us. Lets us cast Nephil Flames. Very rare spell to ever see. Area of effect is 75 plus. 75 plus. And it hits for 12 plus cold magic damage that is armor piercing and leaves a lingering cloud level 3. Could be hilarious to have a couple guys drop this at the beginning of a fight and just absolutely decimate human armies with that. Something interesting, at least. Construction-wise, we're looking at Skull Staves at 5. We're looking at Robes of the Sea at 5. We're looking at various different little thuggy type things. Maybe Skull Mentors for a research bonus. Bottles of water. All good stuff there. In enchantment, there's a few things that we would like to pick up. We could spam Hordes of Skeletons. That is viable. We do have lots of Death 2s, although it'd be pretty inefficient because we're Water 3 Death 2s, so that's kind of eh. But we could summon other undead. I mean, we could just do it ritually if we wanted to. Might be worthwhile. Revenants are a way to dump the Death Gems into a little bit of research, even if Spectres would be better. We also can do Hidden in Snow natively for 65 water gems. Remember, I keep talking, we have a lot of water income. This gets you a whole slew of undead units. Sometimes they have I think they can get ice bows on this unit. You get a chieftain and a mage here. That could be pretty useful. It does have to be cast where mountains are high, so highlands and mountains, but that's fine. That's totally fine. And yeah, I think these guys are fine. If cast in a province with fortune or magic, more likely to get more mages. That would be incredibly good if you did. So another way to get a few extra mages via gems. That's always appreciated. Also get Grip of Winter. This gives us Frost Clouds 1 all over the battlefield. So we can do a bit of a fatigue play here. Other things, I think that's the most of them here. I should point out also an alteration. Woven Winter. This is an ability for us to ritually lower this cold scales around us. So if we could do this in front of our army, very helpful for our ice armor. Do note there's a weird interaction where the ritual goes off, the fights take place, and then temperatures change. So you cannot target the province you want to attack this turn and expect this to take place. A weird interaction there. I think it has to do with, if they didn't do it that way, there'd be river crossing weirdities, I think. But either way, just know you kind of need to do this ahead of your army if you're wanting to count on those cold scales. But very, very important spell, I feel, for us. In Thaumaturgy, Desiccation, again, some fatigue play if we want to go that route. Sailor's Death is a spell, again, we don't see too often. This would not be a bad one to spam. It requires Water 3. All of our cap mages can do it. It gives us an AoE 1 spell that does 14 plus armor negating, magic resistance negates, can only affect things that breathe, essentially, and breathe air, not water. But that's not terrible. Armor negating 14 plus is a very damaging spell. It's not super fatiguing, and it hits magic resistance instead of protection. So can be pretty nasty. We could easily cast this 5 times while we're on script. And I think the AI likes casting this. So you may get lucky and get some more there. This also is, of course, where we get our communions, which might be really valuable to us. In addition, we also could get Terror. Terror is a pretty nasty fear effect, and we can do some fear plays, so that could be a thing. Beyond those, Wither Bones, again, another effect that we could do with a little bit of work. 6 plus does 16 plus armor negating, magic resistance for half. So even if you resist, you're still getting, let's say, 8 plus half a DRN, so 8 plus the equivalent of 1d6. That's still a really deadly spell. That's still a really deadly spell. I don't think we really get too far beyond that, frankly, but Leeching Darkness is vaguely interesting. We do have Control Undead. Could be pretty hilarious if you nab something funny. Could be interesting. I suppose one final thought, I didn't actually call it out here. Where is my Frozen Heart? At 6. I think this turns our research mages into combat mages, and that's also at the same level that we would get Darkness. So again, pretty good there. All of our mages have something they can do, which is always appreciated, including the mage that we're going to have a ton of because there are efficient researchers. So overall, I would say we have a very nice magic profile. We get to use death and water, and especially water isn't the best offensive path, but I think we do it probably one of the best nations in the game if you want to actually use water magic. So pretty appreciated there. Okay, let's bring all of that together. Late Age Atlantis would really like to get in the sea and build some forts down there so we can get some more combat mages. All of our troops are amphibious and have dark vision and have cold resistance. Very nice profile. We get to build ice citadels as long as they are coastal. That is really nice. They're at a discount, and as long as they're in the cold, they're better than normal citadels. Do note they can melt if you let them get out into the heat, so don't let that happen. We still can build normal citadels in here's a good example. We can build normal citadels in non-coastal areas, so we're not hamstrung like some nations are, like coastal only. We don't have that problem. Here's an ice citadel, 66 admin, where I have cold 4. Over here I have cold 4, only 60. Does that matter that much? No, not really, but every amount of admin gets us a little bit more income. So it adds up. You can see here I'm floating a lot of money. I'm making 4K. I have 1, 2, 3 citadels. I have a fort. I have nothing underwater in this one. So that is a ton of income for only having 3 citadels. And this one even isn't in a very good place with 13K. This one's pretty good. Very, very nice, I would say there. I appreciate them being able to build regular forts when they're outside of those coasts. So that can be handy. Again, you make sure you can go in the ocean and you can build forts down there too, which is always nice. We have high mobility, whether it's frozen rivers or not, because our troops have amphibian. So makes us very, very good at getting around, very helpful. You can see in this game where I've been investing that money is a lot of cap mages. I'm getting ready for multiple wars here. Several of them just kicked off, so it's a coming. Otherwise, though, our mobility is from being able to do amphibious things. We're kind of a slow army. Otherwise, we do move basically 1 per turn with our heavy troops, but that's fine. We have good troops, and I don't mind that. If they were crap troops, that would annoy me, but I think it's okay in this instance. Let's go take a look at Pretenders and Design. Pretenders and Scales. For scales, we obviously need a lot of production. I think 2 production is vital. I would almost be tempted if we had a chassis in here that gave production to take that and a little bit of order to just even pump out more of those scales troops. They're just so good. Unfortunately, we don't. I would say I would stay away from Sloth. In the game behind us there, I had, well, we'll look at the god, but I had production 2, and I was basically able to use it up every single turn. Chassis-wise, we do have a good selection, actually, of unique chassis, weirdly enough. We have Great Seer of the Deep for 100. He's an Astral 1. His claim to fame, he has 75 Fortune Teller. So maybe you dump your fortune scales and just rely on him to negate that. I don't love that, but that is a thing. Maybe if you need those extra points for a specific bless. We have the King of Frozen Bones, Water 1, Death 1. Unfortunately, 160 points. He doesn't bring a ton of uniqueness to the table here. He's basically just our cap-only mage, but he's a god. Moving up to Dom 2, we have the Atlantean Ghost King. I do like that chassis well enough, but I'm not in love with it here for 190 points and not immortal. So weird that he's not immortal. Beyond him, I would say for underwater, I do like Worm. Worm is one of my go-tos for underwater expansion if you want to rush that for some reason. Going up to Dom 3, we do have a weird one here in that we have one of the kind of Mesopotamian gods. We have the Twaddle of the Underworld. I don't think he's good here, but we do have that. That's a little odd. We do have Father of Winters, who has Cold Power 1, Chill Aura, a lot of cold resistance, maybe a Dormant that comes out, has some equipment, and could help protect you against things. Does come with a little bit of gear, but you probably want to upgrade that. I don't like the price of 240 though. I think it's overpriced. We do have Dagon, a chassis I love, but he would need to be like half this price for me to be interested, unfortunately. And he brings in Sloth. Not in love with that. We do have the Old Man of the Sea. I do think he's interesting in that he ups your magic scale, and he's a really good researcher himself, and he has Adept Researcher. But beyond that, again, 280 points. You're probably having to take him as a dormant at minimum. I don't love that. Going up to Dom 4s, we have the Idol of Sorcery. I do like the Idol of Sorcery here. I think you can make some interesting blesses, and he ups the magic scales if you want to go that route. I'm not in love with any of these other ones either much. I will also call out, just because we're here, Great Sage. If you want to make just a super budget build, an Awake Great Sage, take like 5-ish Astral, give yourself something. You don't need magic weapons, so something else, but that could give you a good research boost in the early game, because we do really want to get to that Stygian Reign, in my opinion. And so the sooner we get there, the better. Once we have that, I think that turbocharges our armies. Let's take a look at a couple chassis I made. We view created. Let's start with Greedy Worm. This is a build I've showed off quite a lot, or at least a variety therein. He is an Awake Worm. He has hard skin and 1 leftover point. Unfortunately, between water and earth, you have absolute garbage choices for 1 point. So he has mountain survival. Your other choice is a snow move, which we already have. So meh. His claim to fame is he can expand pretty well. He has 18 protection with the hard skin that goes to 23. We self buff. We're in the high 20s-ish. He really wants to give himself liquid body, quickness, Breath of Winter, Iron Skin, Temper Flesh. All those things are great for him. He does have regeneration. He is, of course, amphibian. He has fear, cold resist, poison resist. He is unsurroundable, and from his high earth, he does have a bit of affliction resistance. Overall, not the best, but not the worst expander. You're only taking this guy for whatever reason you think you have to rush the seas. You're going to probably want to research up to at least Self Iron Skin, maybe Temper Flesh for him. I do think those are pretty important for him. So yeah, he does come in with okay scales. He has a little bit of order here. He has some production, very cold. We like the cold to give our ice armor extra oomph, and I did pay for that with a little bit of misfortune. You probably could make the argument you could drop order and get that back to neutral if you so wanted. Second up, I'm going to show you Candle Burner. Candle Burner here is the sage I mentioned. His goal is do as much research as possible. So he has a slightly better scales than the worm did, including Magic 2. Magic 2 lowers magic resistance. if things are in your dominion. We do have a lot of magic resistance save spells that we're interested in, and I'm doubling down on that with Arcane Finesse. So somebody in our dominion fighting us with a magic resistance has a -2 with no items or anything calculated. He's going to come in here with really high magic research, 34, and he has that Inspiring Researcher Bless, or buff, I should say. So that's pretty good. Superior Morale, you could tinker with that a little bit. You could pick any non-astral, you could go up to 2 in. So if there's something else you would prefer, I went with Fire because I figured he could do remote fire searching if I was really into trying to empower somebody to craft Rune Smashers. So that was my reasoning for Fire. But you could go with anything else. Air 2, Death 2, Nature 2, whatever would get you going there, you could do that. So this is just an Awake Researcher option with an okay Bless. All but our Undersea Mage is Sacred. So on our big mages, they would be able to take advantage of that Arcane Finesse. Finally, we have Grinning Effigy. This is probably who I will play unless somebody blows my mind with something else. He is a Dormant, although, yeah, I do think you probably want Dormant here for him. He's going to come in with Farcaster and Arcane Finesse. Pretty darn nice. This is really a caster bless, obviously. Heroism will help our little researchers get higher level and get that extra +1 to research from leveling up. Between Farcaster and Arcane Finesse, that lets us lob like Falling Frost all the way across the battlefield from turn 1. So a few guys just dropping those turn 1, sometimes you can get lucky, and if they put their mages right behind their front line, like to buff, let's say, with Body Ethereal, you might just kill a few mages with that. Or anything else that we want to be lobbing. Farcaster is just nice to give us 50% more range. We have the same Arcane Finesse and Heroism. Scales-wise, he has good scales. He went with Order 1 and Production 2, Cold 3, 1 level of growth. When you get cold deaths, 1 level of cold death is equal to about half a scale of death scale. So this is going to negate most of the cold deaths that you're going to have. And he goes all the way up to Magic 3. That's because we're not going to be able to do Inspiring Research or anything. So we really would like our cap dudes to research strong. So they're going to come in, I believe, at Research 12, and then they'll get 13 once they level up from Heroism. So you can really get that research moving with this guy. And once he's out, he does have the ability to be able to teleport around. Do note he is an Ineptsmith, so -1 on these paths. You could totally change this Glamour to something else, but this is the pathing he starts with, so this is the cheapest to go. This was basically just spending out the points. Remember, you're only crafting at Glamour 2, so you're not making boosters with this guy out of the box. Beyond that, yeah, just a good guy. We can do an Ether Gate if we want to do Astral Pearl dumping. I really like Ether Warriors. I think they're really good and could be a way again to just dump Astral Pearls. High death here, so, well, he's death 3, so not particularly impressive, but he could for sure do a little bit of crafting there if you wanted. Some miscellaneous glamour items, etc., etc. I like this guy. Good scales, has a bless that's pretty useful. I think he's pretty cool. Beyond those, I don't think there's much else I'm particularly interested in, just based on those chassis. I do want to check one thing while I'm here, just to make sure I'm not talking crazy. Yeah, so I took Dormant on him, but if you wanted to, you could actually do Imprisoned. Both Farcaster and Arcane Finesse are not incarnate, so you could take him even sleepier. We can do Bishop Fish pretty easily, so I think I would be fine with that. We'll have lots of Holy Threes once we get up to Conjuration, was that 6-ish? So yeah, you could go all the way down to Imprisoned, and you could supercharge that some more. What else would I give them? I would first up the scales, like his scales were something like, I think it was something like that. As an Imprisoned, let's actually just build him out. So this is what we had before. We had Arcane Finesse, we had Farcaster, we had a level of Heroism. Here I would probably go, we can't go up because we have +1 death. I'm not in love with that, so I would probably invest the rest of this into more magic. What magic would I add? I think that's the flavor. I think that's the flavor. That would allow me to make glamour boosters on the off chance we find a random glamour. Something like this would bring in the ability. We have to teleport, but we could teleport to a cold forest, and we could spend glamour gems to summon in Fey Knights. Alternatively, we could bring in like gnomes, possibly. Again, that's reliant on finding some glamour, but this brings a lot of points to the table. You could go higher here. Maybe you don't do this type of bless. Maybe you actually make your sacreds into something you want to fight with. This will allow you to get a lot of those out. Yeah, either way, I like this chassis quite a bit, actually. I find I can make pretty fun builds with him. He's got a good mix of scale ability and magic pathing, etc., etc. In conclusion, Late Age Atlantis is really nice. You have the ability to get underwater, which is not as highly contested, I feel, as it usually is. You can decently fight against Relay, one of the most annoying nations in Late Age. You can fight very well against Lemuria, one of the most annoying nations in Late Age. Right there, that's great. We don't have to worry about magic weapons because most of our people have them. We have pretty strong pathing in both death and water, and we can do good things with those. We have good forts. We have interesting mechanics. We have a good lineup of troops. Our mage lineup's a little on the weaker side, I would say. We need to get underwater to get our main combat mage. We have a slow to recruit cap-only mage. While efficient, we have a research mage that isn't very good at combat until you get all the way to Alt 6, in my opinion. But I think it's totally fine. I had typical Babel expansion in this game, and I still did absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. Especially one thing I will note, you want to make sure you get your Dominion pushing out, because you really like to be in that cold. You really like to be in that cold and enjoy that super duper high. Look at this guy, 26 protection in my cold 4 right now. He's loving it. He's loving life. Has his tent, is happy. All right, as usual, don't forget to leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. If you're not a current subscriber, I hope this is the video that has earned your subscription. And if you want to go above and beyond, you can always leave a super thanks on the video, join me live on stream for a super chat, or consider becoming a member of the channel. As a member of the channel, you get early access to videos such as this or whatever else I'm working on at the time. In addition, if you join the Discord and link it to your YouTube account, as a member, you get access to a members-only channel where I dump various game files, such as the island maps we've played on stream before. I have those in there, and blueprints and builds and save games from other things that I'm playing. So that's just a big thank you to people who support the channel with their membership. All right, I'll see you down in the comments. Don't forget to leave any feedback, suggestions, god builds, blesses. Obviously here I was looking mostly at like mage blesses, but I do think their sacred's all right, and you could make a bless for him and have him be interesting, especially in the early game when you don't necessarily have the cold to fight in. Maybe something to help you expand could be kind of nice. All right, builders, I'll catch you on the ice flow. Babble out.